Welcome to Dog Explaining, where we break down what your dog is really trying to tell you. I'm Dana, a canine coach and holistic wellness specialist, focused on nutrition, energy work, and essential oils. I'm on a mission for your dog to eat better, feel better, and live longer.
And I'm Angela. I'm your 456 Wellness and Behavior Coach, focusing on helping you understand the connection between 4 balls, 5 elements, and 6 fun tricks.
We're here to help you connect the dots, behavior, food, health, and everything in between, with honest conversations and straight talking guidance.
If you're ready to get past the noise and actually understand what your dog needs you to know, you're in the right place. Now here's today's Dog Explaining episode. Welcome, fellow dog moms and dads, to Dog Explaining. Dog Explaining. Today we're talking about first aid kits for your dog, why it's important, what you should have available, and what to do in a real emergency. So why it's important. You may be evacuated for a natural disaster type of situation, especially if you live on the coast like we do. You may have to leave your home because of something happening and stay with someone else. You want to make sure you've got basically your go bag, but make sure you have stuff for your animals included in that go bag. So we can start with the most common things. How does that sound?
Sounds good. I'll just make one little clarification. I do have another blog. The one they're seeing on the screen, if they're watching this on YouTube, is my first aid kit. But I do have a on-the-go bag blog as well for even how to have like your food stored and ID tags and all those kinds of things that if you really do have to leave the house, other things to keep in mind.
Yeah. So, and we talked about that on one of our podcasts already.
I think we did it last year when the hurricane was brewing. We'll probably do it again this year as a repeat.
Yeah. 'Tis the season and hurricanes.
Yeah. But, in terms of first aid, I think it's important for everybody to have one, because you don't know if your dog's going to go outside and step on a piece of glass, or you go to grandma's house and God forbid she's got xylitol chewing gum. We just don't know what all those circumstances are going to be. And so having a good first aid kit that you can turn to as you are driving off to the ER vet is an important thing to have.
Yes, because in a lot of situations, what happens on the way to the vet can determine what happens after you get there. Yeah. Don't you have a good story to share about that?
You're talking about the dog with the bees?
Yep.
Yeah. So I can see this dog as well as I'm standing here. He was a little Jack Russell Terrier, and him and his brother were with me for board and train because they hated each other. But I had them at the time. I had 2 separate fenced in areas, and he was in one of the little play yards, and I saw him step in a yellow jacket nest. And I watched all these yellow jackets swarming around him, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get to this dog? Because I could just see thousands of them, right? And so I called him to come, and he shot to me like a cannon. Thank God the training kicked in. And I literally in my yard stripped off my shirt, neighbors be damned, right? And I'm swatting yellow jackets and trying to pluck them out of his little wire hair fur, and rushed him into the house and gave him multiple Benadryl, grabbed the bottle and went driving down the road. I think the vet was probably 10, 15 minutes from me, but he got a second dose of Benadryl in the car. And when I got there, I'm handing the dog out to the tech who's telling me have a seat in the lobby. I'm like, no, his gums are gray. And when I said that, it was enough to trigger her that this was bad. It took 2 EpiPens at the vet's office to save him. And they said, had I not given him the Benadryl, he would not have made it. So Benadryl goes in the first aid kit. I don't use it every day. I won't even use Benadryl for seasonal allergies. Long-term use of Benadryl is showing some really negative effects lately. One of which is cognitive decline, dementia type symptoms and such. So it's not an everyday kind of thing.
Please don't use it to keep your dog calm.
Well,
There's
yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's using it for its side effects.
yeah.
And I honestly don't think it works very well for that.
And I've seen it work the opposite. Gouda's one of those dogs where what's it called? Hypo. Oh, I'll think of the name in a second, but it's where dog has reverse
Uh-huh.
reaction to a medication. So basically, I had to give it to her one time and she bounced off the walls. She did not sleep. Her anxiety went through the roof. I know what it was for, mast cell tumor. When we had that MCT scare, they wanted me to start her on a protocol of it for a few days just to make sure nothing got out of hand.
Yeah.
And I obliged, but yeah, that was horrible. I had to call them 2 days later and go, we've got to come up with something else. She cannot take this anymore.
Well, it's funny you say that. I was reading about a homeopathic remedy the other night that is, and I can't remember why I was what I was looking for, but it said, do not give this to your dog if they are easily stimulated because they will become quite the humper. I'm like, oh my Lord, that's a side effect I would not have predicted.
Oh,
So
I
it
know.
stimulates other things too. It's like, oh.
Don't try this at home on your spouses.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God, help us.
I'm
Anyway,
look I'm looking up the name. What is the name of that reaction?
I don't know. But, so we were talking about allergies, and those are the true allergic responses. And so you'll see in the blog that there's purifying essential oil, that if something stings you, an insect bite, those kinds of things, it will help with that itchiness on the skin itself. Apis homeopathy is a really good one if we're breaking out in hives.
Mhm.
Histaminium, and I never say that right, histaminium, I think is correct,
Histaminium.
is more akin to using the Zyrtec kind of products, those antihistamine products on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
Histaminium would be one to pull out and leverage if you're dealing with those seasonal type allergies, as would quercetin. And you told me about jewel weed. You want to share
Yeah.
your experience there?
I found a lady that makes a jewel weed tincture that I can go outside in the evenings. I rule Pender County, so the mosquitoes are like Jurassic size out here. I get eat up taking the dogs outside in the evenings, but I just squirt myself down with jewel weed when I come back in and the itches go away, no little welts or anything. Like it's my magical elixir in this house.
I've personally never used it, so you taught me something new about that one.
Yeah.
So if we move into like the minor cuts and scrapes and little skin type injuries, I will never be without the animal sense ointment
Oh yeah.
ever.
We
And
live
I,
by it in my house for people and dogs.
exactly, I use it if my lips get sunburned, my nose gets sunburned, my skin gets dry. I use it for me for a lot of things, and I recommend it quite often for people to use for itchy paws or inflamed ears or other skin irritations. And I often zhuzh it up a little extra with some additional oils. It has multiple oils in it, but if there's something specific going on, I'm going to add more to it to make it more targeted.
Yep. I can't remember what happened to the dog one time, but I called you and you said, put helichresium in your animal sense. And oh, I know what it was. It was one of the foster dogs who had to have a damaged eye removed,
Oh
and his
God.
incision started bleeding really bad. Post surgery once he was home, and you're the one that said get some helichrysum in him, and we put some in animal sense and rubbed it on there, and it corrected itself. It stopped bleeding profusely, and she got it under control, and he was fine after that.
Awesome. I don't remember that story, but I'm glad I helped.
It was probably 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
a
a
long
while
time
ago
ago.
because that particular foster dog, I just heard that he passed away.
Oh,
Everybody's aging out.
I
So,
know it makes me so sad. I see the same for some of my past fosters and all, and I'm like, oh, y'all making me feel old.
yep. But yes,
So yeah, so
that,
don't be afraid of animal sense ointment. And one thing that I'll say to people too, and I had this conversation yesterday with somebody. I think everybody's scared of essential oils. So I'm going to try to teach more in a completely different way than I've ever done before. My mind is kind of spinning about how to do it, but I've got a plan. But they are so versatile. I can do so many things with it. Where if you buy a specific product, you're kind of limited to what that product was intended to do. Many things don't have multi-purpose.
yeah.
And so many of the oils in the animal sense ointment, for example, is such a great foundation product that when you add stuff to it, you can really customize it
And it lasts forever too.
forever.
I end up I'll send little vials home with a client to
Mm-hmm.
use for something like a scratch, scratching ears and stuff. I'll rub it on the inside of the ears to calm it down where they're digging at
Right.
them. And there's so much in a tube. It goes such a long way that I'll just pull out a little spoonful and put it in a vial and send it home.
Uh-huh. Exactly. So you mentioned helichrysum, and it's not inexpensive by any stretch of the imagination,
But
but
worth it.
100% worth it. It somehow knows, and there's a term that basically means it adapts to what's happening. It knows whether it needs to help the blood coagulate or to flow better. It somehow, nature knows what to do. And so that's why if you have like a bruise and that sort of stagnant blood under the skin, you use helichrysum and it helps disperse it. But just like you just described, we've got an active bleeder, it will help stop it. It's it's pretty amazing. And I know somebody who had a dog bite. I've used it on my own dog bites. I mean, we're trainers, we're gonna get nipped and tucked once in a while, right?
Yep.
Um, but I know somebody that was bit in the face and did not have a chance to rush out to the ER herself. This was a human. Put helichrysum on there and a couple of other things, and went to the doctor later, and they're like, "What?" They could not wrap their head around how much it had seemed to already heal, and it had been less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. So they wound up not stitching it up because it had already begun the healing process so quickly. So it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing stuff. And then I
Yeah.
think I surprised you with this little tidbit of having black pepper in your kitchen counter. If you've got
Yeah.
bleeding, like you got a wound and it's bleeding, you can literally pack black pepper down in there on your way to the hospital to stop the bleeding or at least slow it down. You obviously still want to do the wrapping and the tourniquet kind of stuff, but it's going to help slow down the bleeding until you can get to the ER and they can clean things out and get it under control.
Well, since I just learned about black pepper, would you would you say that it can also just be used for minor wounds that you don't need to go to the hospital, but you just don't like, let's say a dog gets a gash in its leg. Would that be a situation where you would say, yeah, pack it with some black pepper
If it's
and
bleeding, yeah,
yeah,
maybe. But then you're going to have to later make sure you get that cleaned out.
cleaned out, yeah, and would need to be flushed, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
putting that into my memory. I had a set of some housemates came the other day for boarding, and unfortunately they had a disagreement right beforehand, and Finn had a puncture wound in his leg that looked pretty gnarly, and I thought
Yeah.
about it, but I didn't have black pepper. I only have big peppercorns, so it's on my grocery list now to get some regular ground black pepper.
Even like the styptic powder that most people keep because they're terrified to cut their dog's toenails, you could use that
Hmm.
too.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and then if we've got a muscle sprain or tweak the leg and we're not quite sure if it truly is a CCL tear or what, right? We can turn to things like marjoram, which is excellent for muscles, wintergreen, um, really helpful. You're going to hear all the internet tell you don't use it. And I'm telling you that's not true.
Yes.
Quality matters, duration of use matters, purpose matters. And I use it all the time. And I mean, like all the time.
Yeah. It's in
And
the raindrop.
it's in the raindrop as well for now. And that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Raindrop is a very specific collection of oils, 9 of them in a very specific order, which means there's a chemistry to that, right? But we're not going to do raindrop all day, every day, right? So don't be afraid when somebody like me and Angela tell you to add this to the repertoire that the internet scared you to death. We really do. We really do use it ourselves and understand that it's going to be okay. And then lemongrass is very helpful for ligament support. So Poppy, when she tore her CCL and we were doing the work to not do surgery, these were very much part of the protocol.
Hmm. And there's a blend you can get that has all of the I'm not sure if it has lemongrass, but I know it has wintergreen and marjoram, but deep relief. I have roller
Mhm.
balls of deep relief everywhere.
Yeah. And
Just
then there's another product called Cool Azul, which is also very beneficial with like muscle and performance recovery. So there's not really an injury per se, but it's like overuse and high
Mhm.
performance, kind of almost like an athlete getting a rub down after.
Yep.
Those products are fantastic.
Yeah, I was so excited when they came out with the roller ball.
Hmm.
Keep them everywhere for myself.
And we can teach people to make roller balls. And that's part of what I want to do in the new class, right? Is show you how with just a few in your collection, you can make different things as you need them. You don't have to have a product
Yeah.
for all things. You
Yeah.
can blend things together and do different things that are going to achieve different results for different purpose from a small collection. Like when I first started, and I probably have it documented somewhere, the starter kit of oils.
Hmm.
I think there's 11 or 12 in there. I could touch every single system in the body with that collection. So it's enough to get started on the basics
Hmm.
until, maybe we got some other supplies on hand, but it's a great part of the first aid collection. So 4th of July is coming up, and I've been talking about fireworks in my group for a while. There's some really great products, including a couple Chinese herb products that I really like and think everybody needs to have on hand if you know your dog is at risk of being distressed on the 4th of July. But cedarwood, vetiver, valerian, lavender, used individually or in some combination of these, are all very calming. Why do we need that? If your dog is having a medical injury, is a probably better example, but we're injured and they're stressed, they're wigging out, you're wigging out, everybody needs to calm down. So we need
Hmm.
something that's going to help everybody do that. I think frankincense probably could be added to that. And I think I told you the story, Angela, where I know Dr. Barb Fox, it's her story to tell, but I love it. Um, she came upon an overturned farm truck where many pigs had been dumped out into the road, right? So there was a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, a lot of squealing. And she went to her truck and got out a bottle of frankincense and just started walking around and dropping it on all the piglets. And she said there was just a major calm, a major energy shift in what was happening out there just by bringing out that essential oil.
You asked me one time, what's the oil I use the most? And it's frankincense.
Me too. I
No
think
matter
I go
what's,
through a bottle of frankincense every month.
yes, it's on my monthly order.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not joking when I say that because it has so many cellular health benefits for all of us, for everybody, but women ought to be using it on the daily.
Yep.
So there's a hint. All right. Moving on. You want to talk about some of these?
CBD also for calming, also for healing. CBD it's so broad spectrum. I love it.
Me too.
We keep big bottles of CBD on hand around here.
Me too.
Um, most used for calming in situations like that, but also I give it to my older dog for joint health.
Mm-hmm.
Vitality type stuff. Think longevity, think keep the joints healthy before they get bad.
Yep.
So we've always had a constant regime of CBD oil here. Or yeah, CBD oil. I said
Me
that
too.
right.
And I'll tell you, I buy from CBD Dog Health the
Yep.
horse product.
Yep. You told me that too. That's what I do now.
It's, friends, it's not limited to horses. And even though a horse weighs more than I do, right, it is a 4 ounce bottle with far more milligrams per dropper than the itty bitty bottles, right? So, for example, the horse version, I will get 83 milligrams of CBD out of one dropper.
Yep.
In the small bottle of Calm, I get 9 milligrams out of a dropper. So, value wise, significantly different, right?
Yep.
But I can still get 9 milligrams or close to it, and it doesn't have to be exact science out of a dropper just by using a quarter of a dropper or a couple of drops, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Exactly.
And I had a
Yeah,
client just last night. They ordered CBD because their dog is having trouble settling down when they leave the house. So they added CBD. The first time they tried it, they did just a couple of drops of the very low dose and said nothing happened. Nothing. They couldn't tell any difference whatsoever. So they gave her a whole dropper, little dachshund. She's probably 12 pounds ish, right? And the man says to me she was lethargic. Well, lethargy to me is not good. I'm like, are
Mm-mm.
you telling me she wasn't aware of her whereabouts or you guys? She was passed out. What was happening? He said, no. She was just chilled. I'm like, well, that's the whole point.
That's what you wanted.
That's the whole point. So they are tweaking. Maybe they can do 3/4 of a dropper of the. Uh, uh, so if they did 3/4 of a 9 milliliters, Jesus, I can't even talk. 9 milligrams is what I'm trying to say. 3/4 of that's going to be somewhere around 7, right?
Yeah.
So it's just finding the sweet spot, but you
Yeah. And
can't
every dog's
overdose them.
different too.
Yeah, you can't overdose them. And it's possible, it is highly possible that a dog will take more than a horse and
Mhm.
or more than me and vice versa. It just depends on the situation, the central nervous system. All of those things are relevant as what dose for that. There's some things that are very dose specific. CBD is not one of those.
Yeah. And you're going to dose differently depending on what
The
purpose
situation.
you have for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dana has a really, really, really good dosing chart. So if you're having problems with the conversion, just go to her website and find the chart.
Yeah. All right. Melatonin.
Melatonin. You do
I
have,
actually don't use it a lot. When I was in rescue, we used it all the time. I think there are better options like CBD now.
yeah. We used Rescue Remedy a lot, which I see on your list. We used
Hmm.
Rescue Remedy, but that was before I knew a whole lot about essential oils and
Yeah,
all the other
same.
things too. So you just bought what was available.
That's right. And I
Um,
listen, I like flower essences. I really do. I don't know nearly as much about them as I do all these other things, but I was introduced to Rescue Remedy when I was doing foster dog stuff.
yep.
They are actually, there's a legal group trying to claim that it doesn't work, that it doesn't do anything. And so they're trying to sue this company or get them out of business. I don't know what's happening, but it's a big deal. And there's so many people going, clearly you've never tried. Clearly you've never tried flower essences and homeopathies and those sort of things because they keep calling it crackery. But people are like, man, this stuff works. You just need to, you really need to understand it before you
And you
go down
don't have to be
that path.
concerned about long-term side effects.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, we kind of brushed over melatonin going to Rescue Remedy. I don't use melatonin a lot
I
either.
don't either. I don't
Um,
either.
but if you were to, that does have a specific dosage recommendation.
Correct.
2 to 3 milligrams per 30 to 35 pounds of body weight.
Right. And so this is a big one, hydrogen peroxide. Have you ever had to peroxide a dog?
Many times.
Many
More
times.
than I want to admit to.
Correct. Same, same. You
Oh,
you have a
puppies.
story to
Puppies eat
share?
everything.
Huh?
Um, a specific story. Oh yeah, definitely. I had the dog wasn't with me, but I had a client call me and say my dog just chewed through their leather leash and I know they swallowed some of it.
Mm,
And I had him go get peroxide. I think they had to dose them 2 or 3 times,
yeah,
but the belt came up, so
yeah.
no
And so
serious injury.
there's a limit to the time, and I probably need to edit this document. Um, you have about 30 minutes of from the time of ingestion to getting it back out before it's not going to come back out,
Yeah.
right? So if it's been more than 30 minutes or you don't know how long it's been, you need to hit the vet's office. But I literally was sitting here one day in my own house, and I can still see this image as well as I'm looking at you right now. This little toy poodle had a cute little flamingo chew toy, and all the stuffing got ripped out of it. And he's got the little carcass and he's dancing around with it. And I mean, literally, it was gone right before my very eyes. It just disappeared. And I'm like, oh crap, he ate it. So I'm grabbing the bottle of peroxide and shoved it down his throat, and out comes this little carcass of a flamingo. Oh my lord! So I say, listen, that would have killed him.
Oh yeah. This is why you don't give your dogs cat toys.
Correct, but he was a little. This was actually a cat toy. You're absolutely right, but he was a little, I don't know, 6 pound nugget of a toy poodle. I'm like, this, no, no, no. So I've
He was a
written
little
him.
wild too. I remember meeting him
Yeah,
one time.
exactly. So do you remember what I told you about bottles of peroxide once they're open?
Yeah, 3 weeks. That's it. After 3 weeks, you need a new bottle.
Yeah, it's not gonna have the same effect. It might be okay to use on like a little skin injury or something, which is not ideal. Even though, oops, what happened here? Even though people tell you pour peroxide in it, that's actually more damaging to the skin than it is helpful.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, it's not good to use an opened bottle to induce vomiting.
Yes. So start when they go on sale, buy several. That way, if you have to use one, it can
I
become,
buy them by the 6 pack.
yeah.
And since the little dude ate his, that was one bottle. I still have 5 left. And that was a couple years ago. But I'd rather have it on hand than not,
Yeah. I mean, does that stuff even have a shelf life?
not really. Probably a few years, but yeah. Which is a great point to remind people. Whatever you have in your first aid kit, you need to review annually and refresh anything that may have expired.
Including water bottles,
Yeah.
bottles of water to keep in there for dehydration and things like that, cooling and heat exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
Replace your bottled water.
Yeah. And you mentioned sort of the go bag for the hurricanes and storms and stuff. Um, you can keep like the smack product or a bag of carnivore, anything that's sort of dehydrated or air dried, their shelf life is pretty long if the bag is unopened.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, it is going to expire. And so you need to know those things. Just jot them on your calendar when you buy them and you're building your kits and use it before it expires and then replace that, even if you haven't had an emergency that you had to run out of the house.
Did you add, since we talked last, did you add activated charcoal to this list?
I thought I did. Yeah, right here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So let's hit the Gas X first. As a past Great Dane owner, trainer, and Angela, I know you know this, everybody needs Gas X in their first aid kit,
Yep.
especially for breeds that are prone to bloat or the torsion. Now, there is no first aid for torsion other than an emergency surgery.
Yeah.
But if you just got a gassy dog and they are prone to torsion, you need Gas X. And I suggest the strips that dissolve on the tongue so that you could just cram them in the back of the mouth if they're not going to swallow something at that point. But you're shoving that in their throat on the way to the vet. I would much rather pull up at the vet's office and go, he farted, we're good,
Yeah.
than not, right?
Yeah. That's definitely one of those emergencies you don't waste time.
You do not waste time. You have under
Seconds
30
matter.
minutes. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
This just brings back so many memories. My own Great Dane bloated. I saved him. And then I had a foster that bloated one time, saved her too.
I have a story that went the opposite way, and that's why I will never second guess it ever again.
Mhm.
We had Gas X and we tried it and we heard air moving and thought, okay, we're in the clear, and she never woke up the next morning.
Oh no.
And I will never forget that.
Yeah, that's devastating.
So don't hesitate. If you think your
No,
dog is bloated, go to the
right,
hospital immediately.
right. 100%. Okay.
Digestive support, upset tummies. You
Yeah.
get a lot of, well, you're not doing a lot of board and trains anymore. I get board and trains all the time. I go pick them up and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, they get car sick.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, you could have told me that before I got here, so I was prepared.
Yeah,
Um,
so these essential oils are great. I probably should add to listen, I should move this digestive up. This is what happens when I read my own documents. I edit things and rearrange it. But slippery elm, which I recently learned is potentially becoming an endangered plant. This is how much we as humans sabotage the earth sometimes. We'll find something that works really well and then we use the hell out of it and it
yeah.
becomes a problem. So a lot of people are turning to marshmallow root now, but you also could do ginger root. Um, what else am I missing?
I've used chamomile.
Yeah.
I've
And for
put
those dogs
chamomile
that
tea
get,
in the water.
what's that?
Chamomile tea and water in their water bowl.
Sure, absolutely. And if they won't drink enough of it, get a little syringe and shoot it, into their mouth and let them absorb it that way as well. But one thing I like about the oils is we can rub those directly on the belly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to help also. Because we got to remember that what goes on the skin is also going into the body. It may not go as fast and it may not go as deep, so to speak, but it is going to be beneficial. And I heard somebody say the other night that they actually take just raw ginger, slice off a little piece of it, and rub fresh ginger on the belly.
Huh.
And I was surprised by that. And it made sense. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
same principle as an essential oil, I guess, but I never would have thought to do that.
Unless it were, you'd have to have fresh ginger because once it dries
Exactly. You
out,
take
you're
the
not going to
root.
get the oils. Yeah.
That's right. It's the actual root, and you just shave off a little bit and get it really moist and rub that on the belly.
That's why I eat a lot of Thai food here because I put ginger in it. And then I don't have to worry about indigestion afterwards.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, so when I eat sushi, they give you a little pickled ginger.
Yeah.
Poppy likes it.
I never tried giving it to the dog. I bet Gouda would eat it. She eats sauerkraut every day and loves it.
Yeah, Poppy likes sauerkraut too.
I just
All
had
right, so
sushi and ginger.
yep, so let's talk about your activated charcoal.
Yes, activated charcoal. If your dog ingests anything that is chemically bonded, any type of medication, if they, and you told me this after we talked about it, if they step in something that's toxic, you can also use activated charcoal on their paw pads.
Mm-hmm.
But it binds to the chemical so that the body does not absorb that chemical.
Right. It doesn't mean they won't absorb some of it, but the idea is we're protecting them against most of it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Doesn't mean we forego the vet's office in some cases, but it may be something that really slows down that absorption until you can get to the vet, or until even if you've induced vomiting, then this may be the next step. Huey got into rat poison, not once, but twice in his lifetime. Welcome to having a scent hound.
What a rascal.
Right. So we were visiting at grandma's house, so to speak, and I had no idea it was there. Came home from lunch. There's a bag of something empty on the floor. I picked it up, realized it was rat poison. I lost my mind. I'm like, why do you even have this in the house? And I didn't know which dog did it because at that time I had Lexi, Huey, and Howie. So I load all three of them up in the vet. This was before I did all of this stuff, before I knew any of this nonsense, right? Loaded them all up so that they could go make them vomit. Luckily, it was only Huey, but I still paid the fee to have all three of them show me it was nothing. And then the activated charcoal came. And then, of course, vitamin K, just in case there were any bleeding issues internally. So, yeah.
Activated charcoal is another one of those things when you buy it, it'll go a long way. I think it has a pretty long shelf life,
Yep.
but always have it on hand. And it
So
was very interesting to hear you can use it on the paw pads too.
I had
Make a
not
little
ever
paste.
heard that. I was in a call listening to this girl talk, and she said, oh yeah, if they step in something, or like I don't even know what they might step in, but they've been out on a walk and they've stepped in something, that you can just dampen their feet and then let them step in it in like a little container or on a paper towel or something, and get the activated charcoal to stick to the bottoms of their pads or rub it in there, and wait a few minutes and then rinse it off. You're going to help remove the toxins from their feet.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Uh-oh.
Did you see that pop up too?
I did. That was my little note taker arguing with me. Okay. Milk thistle. I don't know why I have this in here twice. One's a tincture and one's not, but I'll fix that. Everybody needs milk thistle. Everybody on the planet needs milk thistle in your first aid kit.
Yep.
So a couple of weeks ago, I get a phone call. This lady said that she had taken her dog to the vet, not doing well. Liver enzymes were through the roof. And I don't mean high. I mean, they were off the charts. All of them, not just one liver enzyme, but like all 7 or 8 of them, right? It was like everything was just out of control. The vet literally said to her in that appointment, because they were so high, that the dog needed to be put down. She wasn't ready to do that. She knew of me. She lives locally. And she called and she's like, is there anything we can do? And I said, I don't know. I can't promise anything, but go to the store right now and get milk thistle and dandelion root. You can at least get your hands on that locally today, this minute in the car. And she did. And we started giving the dog those. And we've done many other things, including the raindrop. I went that afternoon and we did a raindrop and we changed foods and we've done all sorts of things. And now it's been about 3 weeks and that dog's still up and functioning and doing better. We've had a blood test done again. The numbers are way down, but not normal. And so we're tweaking the diet. We're doing a few more things. We're adding in a couple more liver supportive supplements. But yeah, we've basically, knock on wood, that little dog's still kicking.
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
The
All
power
right.
of plants.
What's that?
The power of plants.
The power of nature. God did something on purpose and we just need to learn how to use it. Okay, I mentioned slippery elm. You can also do Pepto if you have to. Not my recommendation, but if you're in a crisis and you can get to the grocery store, then that's going to help you immediately. I would not use it more than a day or so, but if you got nothing else, then that's an option. Everybody needs saline solution to flush out that black pepper we've been talking about.
Yeah.
To flush out your eyes if something gets in them, any of those kinds of things. Having a saline wash in your first aid kit is 100% essential.
Yes, I get that. I actually get that question a lot. So-and-so woke up and they have goopy eyes. Do you think it's conjunctivitis? I'm like, no, they probably just played in the dirt. Just get some saline solution,
Yeah,
rinse the eyes, tell me what they look like tomorrow.
right. I don't put much into the eyes beyond saline. I might, on a rare occasion, use colloidal silver in the eye, but only for a day or so. If there is if I don't know what's caused, like it's not a seasonal allergy kind of thing, if I don't know what caused that problem, I am going to the vet. Eye care is always an emergency in my mind. I
Yeah.
don't mess around with it. There's too much happening in that area. It's too close to the brain. It's too close to the nose and the breathing. I don't mess around with the eyes ever. All right. So the rest is sort of general supplies, right? And I'm going to let people read that on their own. But is there anything else that you can think of we need to add to our first aid collection? I mean, I think this is a pretty powerful one.
It is, and it's extensive and it covers all like oils and herbs and homeopathy. It covers everything.
Right.
You
And
mentioned
go ahead.
colloidal silver.
Yeah.
And I have a product that I use for like dog bites, for instance, like a deep puncture that I really don't want bacteria setting into.
Sure.
It's called silver honey.
Oh, yeah.
And that it's the colloidal silver. But
Uh-huh.
I don't really know a lot about it. It's something that I need to learn more about all the other uses. I didn't realize you could use it for eye care if needed.
Yeah. So I have a blog post on colloidal silver that everybody needs to go read. There are a lot of people in a lot of groups who think it's going to cure everything known to man. That is not true. But for a quick first aid, very short term use, I think it's great. I don't use it internally, like I'm not adding it to the dog's water as an alternative to an antibiotic. I'm not doing that. I will add herbs and oils to their food and water all day long, but I'm not doing colloidal silver. Especially with a dog that is potentially associated with heavy metals already,
Right.
right? So that's why I'm not going to do it long term for anything. So go read that blog post for additional information. And I think in there is included how to choose a good quality, because just like you can buy some really crappy essential oils at the local retailer, you can buy some really crappy products in all categories on Amazon, right?
Oh, yes.
So they're not all created the same. So there we have it.
Yeah. Set yourself a quarterly reminder to check your first aid kit for anything that's expired and needs to be replaced.
Mhm. And one thing I will just add as we wrap this up, know that this first aid kit could be used for the entire family. There's nothing in here that is dog specific.
Yeah.
Nothing,
Even and
right?
even animal sense, even though it's called animal sense, as we discussed, we use it on ourselves every day.
Exactly. Exactly. So, all right, my friend. Well, this was awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Good conversation, good information. If anybody has any questions, or even something that you've heard of that we haven't discussed that's a good option to keep in a first aid kit, let us know.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening to Dogsplaining. We know you've got a lot of choices when it comes to dog advice. We appreciate you trusting us to keep it honest and helpful.
If today's episode helped you understand your dog's needs more clearly, share it with someone who may also need to hear it. And don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
For more resources, visit us online or join the conversation in our community. We'll be back soon with more insight into your dog's behavior, health, and wellness. Questions welcome, and we love guests.
Until then, keep listening to Dog Spoon.